Latest on the search for answers after a Scarborough home explosion.
He came crawling out from the rubble on top of the house, all on fire.
Fire crews search the burnt-out scene of the homeowner as neighbors come to grips with an epic blaze on their street.
We're out here for the innocents being killed in Gaza. This is not politics anymore. It's about humanity.
Plus, war walkout, the message kids sent as they ditched class today.
How big of a deal is it going to be for you to shave it off? I mean, that's...
It will be traumatic, dramatic.
And the stakes for the stash, why this antiques shop owner on the Danforth is ready to shave it all for cancer research funding. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin tonight in Scarborough, a big focal point of the weekend after a house explosion left a home decimated and a neighborhood searching for answers. Today, firefighters continued to sift through the site's debris, looking for the body of the homeowner, presumed trapped in the rubble. We're also learning new details tonight about the homeowner's interactions with police just weeks ago. Greg Ross has our top story tonight.
He's inside. This is what the house at 114 Kitchener Road looked like just before noon yesterday. Brad Cozier, who lives just a couple of doors away, says it all started with a massive explosion.
11:30 in the morning, all of a sudden, boom, and it just shook us like someone grabbed your shoulders and went like that.
He says he ran to the street to see what happened, and that's when he noticed his neighbor's house had been destroyed. Within seconds, he says he saw the man who lives there trying to escape.
The man that lives there was inside. He came crawling out from the rubble on top of the house, all on fire. And he just stood there like this, swaying, not saying a word or screaming for 3 minutes, and then he fell down and the flames grew higher, and that's the last we saw of him. People were frantic and screaming, trying to go over there, but it was no use because the fire was so intense and high, and you couldn't save him. He was on fire.
When police and fire crews arrived, all nearby homes were evacuated as they battled the blaze. Today, the focus shifted to trying to find the homeowner who is believed to be buried underneath all of the rubble.
They'll be taking quite some time to thoroughly go through, fine-tooth comb.
The fire marshal has been called in and has already begun the investigation into the cause of this fire, but those details could take weeks. In the meantime, residents here say they won't soon forget.
Now our street is missing a house.
We're now learning some new details about the man who lived in that home. Toronto police have now confirmed to us that they were called here on October 23rd to deal with an incident, and as a result, the Special Investigations Unit is now investigating what happened that day. The SIU did provide us with a few details. They tell us that there was an interaction between police and a 62-year-old man. Police discharged a taser, and that man was hurt as a result. He had to be taken to hospital, and that's why the SIU was called in. As for things here tonight, Toronto Police and Toronto Fire are still on scene, keeping things secure here. We expect that investigators will be back tomorrow morning by around 7 a.m. to continue the search for that missing man. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
To the city's West End now, a 53-year-old man is dead after being struck by a dump truck near Dufferin and Eglinton.
There was a dump truck that was making a left turn from westbound to Eglinton to turn southbound onto Dufferin. During that turning motion, a pedestrian was impacted and sustained serious injuries. The pedestrian was transported to a trauma center where unfortunately they have succumbed to their injuries.
Police say that this one happened around 10:30 this morning, and the driver of the truck stayed at the scene, and police are still determining if there will be any charges. The collision reconstruction team is continuing to investigate. The Scotiabank Giller Prize was handed out tonight. The annual event honors the best in Canadian literature, and comedian Rick Mercer was hosting the ceremony when anti-Israel protesters jumped on stage and tried to disrupt the live broadcast.
And thank you.
Police escorted the protester out of the venue, and then later, when the winner of the Giller Prize was being announced, another protester tried to disrupt the ceremony.
The winner of the 2023 Giller Prize is... Sarah Bernstein, Study for Obedience.
That protester was also escorted out, and the winner was re-announced. Montreal-born Sarah Bernstein wins for her second novel, Study for Obedience, and the author accepted the $100,000 award remotely from Scotland. Now, the war between Israel and Hamas is now in its 6th week, and today across Ontario, hundreds of secondary school students walked out of class to show support for Palestinians. Organizers are continuing to call on local institutions and political leaders to support an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Tyler Cheese spoke with students at one GTA school.
Students from Meadowvale Secondary School in Mississauga walked out of class today at 1:30 p.m.
We're out here for the innocents being killed in Gaza. This is not politics anymore. It's about humanity.
As they gathered in front of the school, they waved Palestinian flags and raised signs calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. The students have asked not to be identified by name for fear of harassment.
We came here today to get our word out to the public, to the government, that we won't be taking this. The school board, the public, the politicians fail to acknowledge what's happening.
And the Meadowvale students weren't the only ones to walk out today. Parkdale Collegiate Institute also saw students leave class. This former student came out to show solidarity.
As someone who was born in Afghanistan, another war-torn country, I have so much empathy for those people. For so many governments around the world to not be able to come together and say stop us, create a ceasefire right now, the lack of accountability, we as students have to hold our governments accountable for their actions.
Walkouts all over the province were organized by a student group called Ceasefire Now. The group issued a letter on social media earlier today to express their disappointment in local institutions and politicians. The letter reads, "We are appalled and disgusted by the genocide being committed against the Palestinian people in Gaza." They're also calling on school boards to release a statement addressing their concerns, and they say the walkouts will continue until then.
We are the people of tomorrow. Change will not happen unless we decide change will happen. So yeah, and I think that if we want to live in a fair and equal world for everybody, we are the type of people to stand up and point out what's wrong.
Toronto District School Board issued a statement to CBC News writing that students have the right to express themselves but should do so in constructive and respectful ways. Peel District School Board also responded to the walkout, stating it will remain vigilant to ensure all students feel safe at school and that hate and violence in any form will not be tolerated. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Mississauga.
Meanwhile, a new report says most high school principals need more support for de-streaming at the grade 9 level, with many saying it's not working at their school. De-streaming means students don't have to select from academic or applied streams when choosing their courses. And Lorenda Redicott has that story.
Almost all high school principals surveyed on de-streaming, 96% said they needed an increase in learning supports, such as educational assistance.
Those were shocking results, and even the fact that only 20% of principals agreed that that this was working effectively in their schools.
People for Education surveyed more than 1,000 high school principals across all 72 public school boards. De-streaming got rid of separate academic and applied streams in grade 9. Research found low-income, Black and Indigenous students were more likely to be placed in the applied stream, but students in that stream were less likely to graduate or go to college.
The biggest message from principals was, we think this is a positive change, but we think that it hasn't been sufficiently supported to make it really, really work.
One student representative has seen the impact of how streaming used to work.
If they're in elementary school and they may not be the same motivation they have in high school, then to change in between, it's a challenge, and it limits the kind of opportunities they have.
A spokesperson for the education minister says this year the province is investing more than $100 million in extra de-streaming supports and hired almost 1,000 new teachers focused on transitioning students in and out of streaming. This report looked at the last school year, so that wouldn't be taken into account. The Union for Public High School Teachers isn't surprised at the findings based on what it hears from members.
when you have 30-some kids in a classroom with diverse needs and different support needs. How do you do everything that you need to do with a curriculum that's new?
Only some school boards, including the Toronto District School Board, already have de-streaming in place for grade 10. The province says it's part of a phase-in at the board level.
People are concerned because without the supports in grade 9, it seems to indicate there won't be any supports in grade 10 either. And again, it's the students of the province who suffer.
It's unclear when de-streaming for grade 10 will be standard across Ontario. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
And popping outside for a live look at the city of Toronto tonight. It is 6 degrees and partly cloudy, and Nick Cernkovich is here with a first look at the weather forecast. Nick, a pretty beautiful November day here in the city of Toronto.
Well, Chris, very different stories in terms of the weather across the province. Let me start with the temperatures here. Now, you go down to Windsor today, afternoon highs at 16 degrees. Toronto, very similar at 14 degrees. That's double the daytime average for this time of year. But you make your way to southeastern Ontario. In Ottawa, only looking at -1. And this because we've seen this tail end of this trough that's kind of moving across. Generally sunny skies across most parts of southern Ontario. A little bit of cloud cover tonight, though, in the Toronto area. Still looking at flurries and some light freezing drizzle tonight in Ottawa. By tomorrow, cloud cover to start the day in Toronto, then it begins to clear out. Ottawa still staying under cloud cover. Windsor looking at lots in the way of sunshine for tomorrow, and really kind of on and off cloud cover, a mix of sun and cloud for the next couple of days for most places. 2 degrees tonight in the city of Toronto. Tomorrow we're looking at a high of 8 degrees with cloud cover clearing out into the afternoon. Ottawa, a bit of a different story. -2 degrees tonight with flurries and some patchy freezing drizzle. 4 degrees, but there is a warm up on the way. We'll have your full 5-day forecasts coming up in just a bit.
All right, Nick, we'll check back in with you in just a few minutes. Thank you. All right, now to a major company in our city filing for bankruptcy. Bad Boy Furniture is blaming the move on a challenging economy, and it says high interest rates, falling home sales, and a tight retail climate has affected business. Now, Bad Boy Furniture Warehouse says it's aiming to reconstruct its business, and you might know this GTA furniture brand by its ads proclaiming nobody can beat its prices. The retailer started in 1955 by former Mayor Mel Lastman, and it has 12 locations across Ontario. Now to a farewell in the Danforth, 50 years in the making. A 76-year-old businessman and the chair of the Broadview Danforth BIA says he is ready to say goodbye to his mustache. It's all in an effort to raise money for prostate cancer through the Movember movement. Anam Khan has his story tonight.
Albert Storchik is a familiar face in the Danforth area, where he's been running an antique shop for over 3 decades. He's also the board chair of the Broadview Danforth BIA. He has a signature trait he's known for, his 50-year-old stash. And now he's ready to bid farewell to it to help raise money for a good cause.
How big of a deal is it going to be for you to shave it off? I mean,
It will be traumatic, dramatic.
He launched a campaign for Movember, trying to raise $10,000 for prostate cancer. There are posters of his face plastered across businesses in the area.
It's about all of us, and I know there's so many men in the neighborhood, colleagues, friends, customers who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I was just startled by the number.
He counted the number of people with cancer in his life recently after watching a Movember commercial. When he got the idea for the campaign, he called up his partner.
My first reaction was I'll do something benign like tinted pink. And she said, no, we need something a little more dramatic, like maybe shaving it off.
And those close to him know it's a bold move, like his friend next door.
I've known this man for over 30 years, so for him to shave that, it would be a big deal, because it's his persona, it's him.
And to his surprise, he's learning about how people really feel about it, like his son.
Thank goodness it's about time. We're trying to get rid of it.
Storchik's campaign has a unique twist to it. Instead of incentivizing shaving it, he's raising money to save it.
I want it to be a little more positive.
and his friends are on his side.
We're going to make sure he doesn't have to do anything because we're going to raise enough money so he can keep that. I want him to look as beautiful as he always does. So.
But if he doesn't reach his goal by December 2nd at 2 p.m., he will shave it in front of his store. We asked him for some tips for a healthy stash, just in case.
I don't trim it.
No?
It trims itself naturally by getting caught in sticky chicken wings.
Storchik says he'll grow the stash right back. All funds from his campaign will go toward men's mental and physical health. Adam Khan, CBC News.
Welcome back. CBC Toronto has learned Metrolinx is targeting riders and wants to fine at least 6,000 of them a month for not paying up. It's an effort to reduce the amount of revenue. The provincial agency says it's losing to fare dodgers, but some worry about who will be targeted. Angelina King has the CBC Toronto exclusive.
Internal documents obtained by CBC News show Metrolinx recently implemented a target for fare inspectors when it comes to the number of fines they hand out to people who don't pay to ride the GO train. The official term is a Notice of Violation, or NOV. The documents show in September, the NOV target was 5,000 fines. Officers handed out 5,121. The target went up the next month to 6,000. 6,187 fines were issued.
Well, the documents use the word target. A Metrolinx employee described the practice as more of a quota. They also told us there have been conversations about what disciplinary action could look like if fare inspectors failed to meet that monthly target.
It certainly raises alarms.
August Pernoth with transit advocacy group TTC Riders says the practice could lead to profiling.
Fare enforcement is a discriminatory practice. It often targets people of color, people who are black, people who are indigenous, and especially people who are lower income and often unhoused. And this practice really affects more marginalized transit users.
In a statement, Metrolinx didn't directly acknowledge the targets, but did say fare inspections are designed to be applied in a fair and uniform way. The goal is that all customers on a GO train or bus are inspected, and all Metrolinx employees receive anti-racism and anti-bias training. Metrolinx says it relies on fares to cover the cost of its operations and services. When asked how much it's losing to fare evasion and how much it makes in fines, Metrolinx wouldn't say. Fines for not paying start at $35 for a first-time offender and escalates after that. Let's say everyone who was fined last month were first-time offenders and paid their violation. That would mean Metrolinx would collect more than $216,000 from the October fines alone. The documents also show there's a monthly target for the number of inspections officers should complete and how many were done. In September, the target was 100,000 inspections on GO trains. Officers surpassed that and did 151,000. In October, the goal was 120,000. Officers were a bit short at 117,000.
GO fares are incredibly expensive for many.
Pernoth says they'd like to see the province provide more funding to transit agencies so they don't have to rely so heavily on fares for revenue. They say if Metrolinx is losing money to fare evasion, then
the best way to win riders back onto GO Transit and its system and, have more revenue is to run better and more frequent service and be a more attractive service to use.
Unlike Metrolinx, the TTC doesn't set fine targets for fare inspectors to meet. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to some new names that were inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame tonight. The ceremony being held in Toronto this evening. Former Rangers goalie Henrik Lundqvist among this year's inductees, and also joining him, Olympic gold medalist with Canada's women's team, Caroline Ouellette. It is the highest honor for Canadian football teams. The coveted Grey Cup arrived in Hamilton today.
Thank you to all Hamilton Tiger Cat fans, to the entire city of Hamilton, and to Canadian football fans in every corner of this country who will come together this week and this weekend to celebrate something that is truly special. And what we see is so unique in the CFL and in Canada is that this game brings Canadians together in the most remarkable way.
And the Toronto Argonauts will not be competing in the 110th Grey Cup after a promising season. The team choked on Saturday against the Montreal Alouettes. Montreal will now take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for the top prize on Sunday. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, last word to you, Nick. What are you watching for?
Well, Chris, let's get back to the big weather picture here. And again, I mentioned the snowfall and snow flurries tonight in the Ottawa area. Most of that sort of cold winter weather is towards southeastern Ontario. In behind it, we've got a little band of cloud cover that's kind of tracing down across the Toronto area tonight, and clear skies in Windsor, which will actually lead to cooler temperatures through the overnight. Through tomorrow, we've got sunshine down in Windsor. Toronto's looking at some morning cloud cover there, and then Ottawa and Kingston still looking at cloud cover for the better part of the day. It begins to clear out for most of southern Ontario into the afternoon to a mix of sun and cloud. And then we've got more in the way of a mix of sun and cloud headed our way as we head through Wednesday morning as well and into the afternoon. Ottawa will pick up a little bit in the way of sunshine. And then again, you see the green there. That's rain or rain showers on the forecast, meaning temperatures are going to warm up. Little gusty out there today, gusts up to about 50 kilometers per hour. Those will ease off sort of late morning into the early afternoon hours, and then they pick up again on Wednesday, where we could see gusts that'll be in the neighborhood of about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour out of the south. Now, mind you, because it is out of the south, we're starting to see warmer temperatures build in again. So a little bit of a dip in the temps for tomorrow, and then they start to rise as we head through midweek. Here's a look at overnight lows. Now, Windsor coming in at -2 degrees, and this because of clear skies tonight. Bit of cloud cover sort of around the Toronto area and the Golden Horseshoe, so temperatures will stay just above the 0 mark, and about -1, -2 in the Ottawa area, again, just as the colder weather is in place. Forecast-wise, as we move through the next 5 days for Toronto, it looks like this: 8 degrees tomorrow, clearing sky cover, mix of sun and cloud, and double digits for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. A few rain showers, though, on Friday, and the risk of a few showers on Saturday, highs to 5 degrees. Ottawa, looking a little better than what we've seen over the last couple of days. 4 for tomorrow, 8 for Wednesday and Thursday. A few rain showers on Friday as well, but temperatures closer to the seasonal mark. Chris.
Thanks, Nick. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.